In February 2003, a Rhode Island man killed his first victim and then killed two more over the next year and a half before he was caught and arrested in July of 2004 on the front steps of his home in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. Hey, welcome to True Crime Travel Map. This is a podcast about a map I've been putting together. A bunch of true crime locations on it. You can see that map at truecrimetravelmap.com. Please subscribe if you guys dig this content. I'm trying to make it better. I'm trying to look at the camera more. I'm trying to research more. I'm trying to write more stuff. So if you guys want this to get better, drop me a thumbs up or a subscribe. I dig it. That being said, let's just get into this week's episode. Alright guys, so this week we head to Woonsocket, Rhode Island to go over the murders of Audrey Harris, Christine Dumont, and Stacy Goulet. Woonsocket, Rhode Island is Rhode Island's northernmost city on the border of Rhode Island and Massachusetts. In 2004, it had roughly a population of 43,000 people, and it is the sixth largest city in Rhode Island. And Rhode Island ain't that big, so it's not really saying much. It sounds like it's one or more of the smaller cities, I guess. I don't know. It is known for being the corporate office to the CVS Health and an overall good and safe place to live. Well, that wasn't until early 2003. During the early morning hours of March 2nd, 2003, various women were walking up and down Arnold Street. One of these women was Jane Smith. At some point in the night, she was approached by an SUV. She was prepositioned to get inside, and she did. Then, not long after, emergency services were called. They were getting a bunch of calls describing that there was a naked woman found lying in the street. That woman was, of course, Jane Smith. It was near the old wood mill in the town. She would be taken to the hospital injured, but fortunately she survived. And then the police were able to speak with Jane to ask her more questions about what happened that night. Like, how did she go from being on the street to being by the wood mill? So she explained to the police that after she was picked up by the driver, she was brought right to the secluded wood mill. Once they got to the wood mill, she got out of the car, and then she was sucker punched. She tried to fight back, but then she was overpowered by a man with a screwdriver and left her for dead until he got back into his car and drove off. Jane described him being a white man in his mid-30s, stocky build, blonde hair, glasses, and tattoos. She said he had tattoos on both arms. Yeah, I mean, I only got him on this arm, unless you count the wrist, but it wasn't me. So investigators went to the area where the attack happened looking for clues. And there weren't really many clues other than pools of blood, but they were actually the victim's blood, not the perpetrator's blood. So they kind of got stuck with nothing really after that. They had the scene of the crime and they have the victim, but they don't have the perp. So now we go to April 4th, 2003. No developments were made in the Jane Smith case to this point, but one morning there was a call to the police about a missing person. This call came in from the missing person's mother, and it was Audrey Harris's mom. Audrey was also a worker, and she frequented high-end Arnold Street as well as Jane. So this already looks like they could be connected. Her mother said that she would visit her about 1 to 2 times a week, and the visits just stopped abruptly, and she hasn't seen her daughter in about 3 months, which no communication, no contact, isn't really like her at all. So, yeah, this isn't looking good. So the police suspected that Audrey's disappearance and Jane's attack could be connected. So they went to high-end Arnold Street where the ladies of the night worked, and they went to talk to some of them to see if they could get some information, some clues as to where these girls are. Unfortunately, none of the women provided any useful information other than offering the police discounts for their services. I'm just kidding. But the police had nothing to tie the two together other than the fact that they both kind of were night workers, and that was it. And they were both taken from the same area, but they didn't have any definite evidence suggesting that there's a connection. But about a week later, on April 11th, 2003, police were informed that another worker, Christine Dumont, was also attacked and survived, and she was at the hospital, so the police rushed over to the hospital to talk to her. So as I said, Christine was also a worker, and she was also working on high-end Arnold that night. So again, same area, same kind of MO. Looks like it's the same perpetrator. She said a man picked her up and then took her to the wood mill. The same wood mill where Jane was attacked, so this is pretty sure it's the same guy. She said when she got there, the man dragged her out of the vehicle by her hair and started beating her with a tire iron. Christine fought back against her attacker but was not able to subdue him due to the lack of her size and no weapon. Instead, she actually played dead, like he was a bear, you know what I mean? And it worked. He thought he killed her, and he got into his vehicle and he drove away, and she survived the attack, thankfully. So when the police spoke with Christine, she described the attacker very similarly to Jane. So police had the same attacker, it seemed like, on the loose currently. And again, she mentioned the stocky build, the blonde hair, the tattoos. So after police spoke with Christine and Jane again, they went back to High and Arnold to see if they could get any more clues, any more information. And as before, they got nothing from the ladies of the night, of the evening. But during all this, Jane did remember one detail that she did not tell the police. She did remember that when she got abducted, the man stopped at an ATM and withdrew $100 out of the ATM, which is huge. This is huge because she knew roughly where the ATM was, or where the ATM was, and roughly what time of day it was. So this could narrow the guy, and they narrowed it, and it worked. They actually found the ATM that got the $100 withdrawn from it, and they got a video of the guy in the ATM. So police saw a picture of the man, and they were very certain that they were looking at the man that attacked Christine and Jane. When they put together the lineup of a bunch of different men, Christine and Jane both pointed out the same men. Christine saying, "Yep, that's the motherfucker who attacked me." And Jane saying, "That's him, that's him." And the man was identified as Timothy Scallion. Timothy was a Woonsocket local and no stranger to the police. At this point, the police officers knew that Timothy was responsible for Jane and for Christine's attacks, but now they also suspected that he had something to do with the disappearance of Audrey. On April 15, 2003, the police got an arrest warrant for Timothy, and they took him into custody. And they got a search warrant for his house. So Timothy wouldn't talk. He demanded a lawyer, so that interrogation ended pretty quickly, though. But even though he decided to stay quiet, he was still charged with multiple counts of first-degree felony assault as well as 2 counts of kidnapping. But with no evidence of Audrey's disappearance, he was never charged with anything connected to her. Scallion actually pled not guilty and said he was in a relationship with both of the women that were accusing him at the time. That doesn't really explain the horrific attacks. I mean, if you're dating him or not. Screwdriver? Really? Tire iron? Really? His defense didn't deny that he was with the women the night they said they were attacked, but they said that somebody else was responsible for it. So yeah, that was the defense. Hey, listen, I was with both these women at the night that these attacks happened, but both nights that they got attacked, I wasn't with them during the attack. It was either before or after, but it wasn't during. It's just a coincidence it happened with both women during both attacks. So he was refused bail and he was held in prison until the date of his trial. Prosecutors wanted the women to testify against Timothy, and Christine was very into the idea, but Jane was not so much. Christine was super into telling everything she knew. She wanted to put him behind bars. She wanted to look him in the face and lock his ass up. Jane, not that she didn't want to put him behind bars. She didn't want to relive the situation, which I totally understand. Anybody could understand that. She just wanted to move on with her life and just leave it at that. So Christine's testimony at this point was very important, since that was the one and only testimony that they got, that they needed, you know, to really make sure that Timothy got put away. But on May 3rd, 2004, a woman actually reported her sister missing to the police and said she hasn't heard from her sister in 10 days. The really worrying part was she didn't collect her state pay. That missing woman was Christine Dumont. Police started investigating pretty instantly where Christine could be. I mean, they needed her testimony for this trial, and it was also out of the ordinary for anyone to not pick up their pay. So this could be a pretty bad situation. They wanted to get to the bottom of it ASAP. Police thought that Timothy could be held responsible or have something to do with her disappearance, even though he's in jail, but he could still have called somebody, be connected with somebody on the outside. So they were definitely keeping observation on that to see if they could connect him at all. But it didn't really look like that was really the case. It didn't look like there was any connection there. They actually found out that Christine went back to working the night. Yeah, back on High and Arnold Street. Back where Jane got picked up and attacked from. Back where she got picked up and attacked from earlier. But she was back there, you know, I get it. It's a hard knock life. So the police went back to talk to the girls on the street to see if they can get any information about the disappearance now of Christine. And the ladies came up with nothing. They might be walking those streets, but they ain't talking those streets. And now, without being able to link Scallion to Christine or to whatever, they had to come to terms with that maybe somebody else was responsible for the disappearance of Audrey and Christine. Maybe there was another person other than Timothy Scallion that was responsible. You know, that's possible. And then something occurred that really confirmed that suspicion that the police had, that it was somebody else, that it wasn't Timothy Scallion, that he was still a piece of crap, but there was another bigger piece of crap out there. And the police were about to really zero in on him. But poor Christine, you know what I mean? First she was attacked by Timothy, and then brutally attacked. She survives that attack, and then she goes back to work on the streets, and then she gets picked up by this other perpetrator. I mean, don't work the streets, OnlyFans. I mean, safety of your own home. So on July 4th, 2004, James Nelson would report his girlfriend, Stacy Goulet, a 24-year-old girl, missing. James told the officers that he went to go bum a cigarette off somebody from around the corner, and when he came back, Stacy was gone. He figured that she just went for a walk and she'd be back in a minute, and then after she wasn't back, after a while, he grew very concerned, and he should have grown concerned. Police didn't really believe James's story, though, and after prying for a while, it was because he was lying. He was actually there kind of watching over her as she worked the night. A lot of ladies of the night, this story, guys. While he was going to bum a cigarette, she got picked up, he came back, she was gone, and he just expected her to come back at some point, as she has done before. He said he didn't want to tell the police about it because he didn't want to give her a bad reputation. He didn't want to smudge her character. He didn't want people to think badly of her. So that's why he lied. He was doing it for her, you know what I mean? It wasn't for him. And the only reason that he broke and said that was because the cops were interrogating him as if he was the murderer. They came at him like, you did this, you were the guy. And he was like, I wasn't the guy. And then he said that she was working. And then after speaking with James for a while, the police realized that he was not involved. You are not the father. You know what I mean? He was not involved in this. And then the police spoke with Stacy's mom, who confirmed that she knew that Stacy was working the streets and she was trying to get her out of it, trying to get her off of it. And Stacy didn't really want to. It seemed like she enjoyed doing it, or at least she didn't want to stop doing it. Yeah, but other than that, there was no more leads, and Stacy's disappearance went cold, as did Audrey's, as did Christine's. So police didn't really have anything to go off of, so they just set up a sting operation and they went to High and Arnold Street. So multiple men were arrested during these stings, but it didn't lead to any information of these missing girls. That wasn't until there was an anonymous call to the police on July 11th, 2004. This got the investigation moving back into high gear. The caller told about a girl named Jocelyn Martel, who was also recently attacked, and they said that they should probably get a hold of Jocelyn because she has some information that could help the investigation, that could help the police officers. Jocelyn was actually very easy to find because at the time she was in custody. She was in police custody, she was in jail. So the police went to jail to go talk to Jocelyn, and she was actually super excited to talk to the police, give them information, give them all the details she had because she wanted to put this SOB in jail, in prison, on death row, for putting all her co-workers in harm's way. She told the investigators about a month before the women went missing, she got picked up by a guy, and the guy brought her back to his place on Cato Street. After she entered the house, she said the man locked the door behind her, then he attacked her, arms around her like wrestling style, you know what I'm saying? She fought the man hard, boom, boom, and she got away from him. She rid herself of his grip, tough as nails, and she got out of the house. But she told the police that she doubted she was the first or last woman that had happened to, especially at that house. So the police did some investigating, you know what I mean? Because they believed her, because That would be a wild one-time occurrence for somebody. So she described the attacker to the police, but even better, she described what the house looked like. She said it was a white multi-family home with green shutters and a white picket fence on Cato Street. So what did the cops do? They drove down Cato Street, and they weren't seeing anything after a while until they drove up to it. They see this boom, white multi-family house, green shutters, white picket fence. This is the spot. You know what I mean? They got it. They got the spot. So they ran the electrical company and the cable company to get the names of the people in the house, to see if they could run background checks, to see if they could find out who is living there, who's connected to this residence. So at 221 Cato Street, the police sat there waiting to get a response back, and there was a hit. They found out that there was a report of a woman named Reese Morris. She made a report saying that she was attacked there at that spot, you know what I mean? And it was very similar to what happened with Jocelyn. The police contacted Reese and she was more than willing to speak with them. She said on February 15, 2004, she was celebrating her birthday, right? So she goes to a bar down the street, she goes to have a drink, sits at a bar. She goes to pull out her money, a man walks up behind her, says, "Your money's no good here, miss. Let me get the drinks," right? So he buys her drinks. They have a great night. She said nothing was weird. This guy seemed super chill, super rad. They had a good conversation. Everything was going great. So he's like, "Hey, let's go back to my place." You know what I mean? And she's like, "All right, I'm down," you know? And then all consensual, all chill. And then the second they get back to his place, she said he asked to grab, needed a napkin for something. He said, "Oh, go check that drawer right there." She turned her back. Boom, he locked the door. Boom, he jumped on her back, wrestling style. And he started choking her to the point where she said it was bad. I mean, she said all she could think is, "I need to get this guy off of me." She was throwing him into the stove, bending his back over it, gasping. She's like, "Please let me go. My daughter, please, I need to see my daughter." And then he let go, and he grabbed her and he threw her outside. He told her, "If I ever see you here again or outside again, I will kill you." So she ran off. She made a report, and I don't know why nothing really happened, but the report was made. But that was it. So the police were convinced that the same man attacked both women. And after a little bit, the electrical company came back with a name, Jeffrey Mailhot. So a background check on Jeffrey revealed nothing. Squeaky clean past. Weird, right? So yeah, nothing in this guy's record, and then the police actually had to contact the DMV to access a picture of him. So then they got a picture of him. So now they finally put a face to their suspect, to their perpetrator, to the SOB who's been terrorizing all these women. So they put that picture in a lineup, and they show that lineup to Jocelyn, and boy oh boy does she freak out and point right at Jeffrey Mailhot. Tease does the same thing, instantly pointing out the attacker. I mean, it was him. They knew it was him. They got him. So the next day, the police got an arrest warrant for Jeffrey Mailhot and a search warrant for his home. So on July 17, 2004, the police saw Jeffrey Mailhot as he was going to enter or exit. As he was at his residence on the porch, they approached him, they arrested him, brought him into custody. He was taken to the Woonsocket police station for interrogation. When they went into his house to check it out, they noticed it was kind of impeccable. Everything was very OCD kind of placed, like perfectly. The place was spotless, super clean, super organized, not what you'd think. Yeah, I mean, but then they went into the bathroom, and that was a completely different story. So the bathroom, it just had crud everywhere. I mean, it was disgusting. They could see this weird like formation around the bottom of the bathtub, so they hit it with that Lumex stuff, you know what I mean, that brightens it up under the black light, you know, cum, urine, blood stuff. And big pile of cum, urine, or blood. Not sure which one. They tested it. It was blood. So yeah, this guy is not looking that innocent right now. So the investigators went to the interrogation with Jeffrey, and they started talking to him to see what they could uncover.
I, Jeffrey S. Mailhot, am a suspect in the crime of assault with a dangerous weapon.
First, they started asking him questions to try to build some kind of rapport with the guy. You know what I mean? Like, hey, what's your name? How you doing? Hey, how are the Knicks doing? They're doing great. They're on an 8-game winning streak. How crazy. And then they started digging a little deeper.
I've seen him around, but I haven't picked any up.
They ask if he has any personal history with sex workers. He denies it. He says, no. Me? No.
In the past year, probably 3. I've never had a serious problem with a prostitute in my house, no.
And then they start talking a little bit more. They bring up Christine and they bring up Jane. And then he says,
I've gotten a little physical.
Okay. What do you usually do?
I choked him a little bit. I've never killed anybody. That's what you're getting at.
hey, you know what? I had a relationship with both those women, but a relationship, not a sex work relationship. And then after talking a little bit more, they realized it was a sex work relationship. But then he said they never did anything physical. But then after talking a little bit more, they realized there was a little bit physical. But then he said that they didn't do anything over the line. But after talking a little bit more, they realized it was a little bit over the line. Wow, this guy seems to be a liar. Finally, he admits to picking up prostitutes in the past. Finally, he admits to picking up Jocelyn. But then again, when he asked if he was ever physical with these women, he said, no, I would choke them a little bit, but everything was consensual. Just a little papa on the sides, not on the front. On the sides, not on the front.
What happened, Jeff? What happened?
Then the investigator showed him pictures of Audrey Harris, Christine Dumont, and Stacy Goulet, the three missing women.
You pushed it too far one night, right? Things got out of hand. Huh?
Yeah.
And Jeffrey started shaking. He was on edge. And the detectives could see they rattled him a little bit. And one of the detectives asked him, hey, what are you getting so nervous for? And Jeffrey said, because you guys think I killed these three girls. Jeff, I never said they were dead. We only told you we were investigating missing girls. So when the one detective left the interrogation room, the other detective had his chance to really crack in on Jeffrey. And it worked. Because then when the second guy came back, Jeffrey was ready to talk. He was ready to squeal. Squeal, 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 squeal.
Things got out of hand. Huh?
Yeah.
All of them?
Mm-hmm.
All three?
All three.
And then that's what he did. He squealed. He confessed to killing the three women. He gave kind of a little bit of a breakdown on it. He said in February 2003, he picked up Audrey Harris, the 33-year-old worker, outside of a laundromat. After driving her to his apartment, he strangled her to death as soon as they walked inside. He said not knowing what to do next, he kept Harris's body in the apartment for a day and a half until he got an idea from watching The Sopranos. He said after he watched an episode of The Sopranos, there was an episode where the antagonist of the show gets murdered and dismembered in a bathtub. So Mailhot bought a bone saw at a hardware store. You know what I never understood is killing people is brutal, right? It's bad. It's terrible. That's great. But cutting people up, that's like another it's like, you know, it's another level. How do you know you can do that? I'm just saying it seems like a separate thing. Dismemberment? Ugh. So after he bought the bone saw from the hardware store, he drove back to his apartment and he dismembered Harris, and then he put her corpse in the bathtub, and he proceeded to just put her body parts in the garbage bags, and he put them in separate dumpsters. So then on April 23rd, 2003, Christine Dumont was murdered in the same exact way, strangled when she got into the apartment, and then she was dismembered. Her body parts were put into trash bags and left in different dumpsters in the Woonsocket community, in the surrounding communities as well. Kind of spread them out. And last but not least, after picking her up from the 4th of July fireworks show at a local park, Timothy Mailhot murdered Stacy Goulet. Then he dismembered her and disposed of her remains as well. So that was kind of his MO. Strangulation, dismemberment, disposal of the remains. So in June 2004, Mailhot, searching for another victim, he picked up Jocelyn Martel, a then 27-year-old prostitute outside of a health center. And then when they arrived at his apartment, she asked, do you want to go to your room or the living room? As she turned in the opposite direction, he again began to choke her. However, Martel headbutted him and poked him in the eye, causing him to stumble backwards. She took that opportunity to escape. Some of the women did not report the incidents to the police, but the law enforcement did find out about the altercations after an anonymous call was made at a tip line. Although Martell did not know the name of Male Hot, she actually was the reason that he was caught, because she gave the police a correct description of his house, the street it was on. Really, really helpful in getting Jeffrey caught. She also identified him later through a photograph. So at this point, the police were ready to hone in. On July 17, 2004, the police went to Jeffrey Male Hot's house and saw him on the stoop, and they arrested him. A few hours later, he confessed to the murders of Audrey Harris, Christine Dumont, and Stacy Goulet. During his confession, Male Hot did appear remorseful, but that could just be all for show. Because he did say that he enjoyed trapping his victims, and that's why he committed the murders. That he did enjoy the whole process of the fear and all that. So this guy is just not remorseful, not a good person. He also said he was glad that he got caught, because he said he wasn't going to be able to stop. He didn't see himself able to stop, and he said he just felt like it was going to keep getting worse. So when the investigators did a DNA test on the bathtub in the apartment, they found blood samples from Harris, Dumont, and Goulet, all three women. So they were all three of them were killed in the apartment and dismembered in the bathtub. So they also found the saw that was used, and they actually tracked down the surveillance video of him buying the saw, the bone saw that he used to dismember the women at Lowe's. Sorry, Home Depot. Hoping they could find the remains of the victims, the investigators went through all the dumpsters that were in the locations roughly near where Jeffrey told them. From this, they searched a landfill in Johnston for 10 days, and that's where they found some of the remains of Stacy Goulet. However, the police were never able to find any remains of the other two victims. So Jeffrey Male Hot was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of assault with the intent to commit murder, and 1 count of felony assault. On February 16, 2006, he pled guilty to all 5 counts and was sentenced to 2 terms of life imprisonment plus 10 years. He now resides at the Rhode Island Maximum Security Prison in Cranston. Male Hot will be eligible for parole in 2047 when he's 77 years old. So the pop culture connection, the crimes of Jeffrey Male Hot were covered on Season 1, Episode 6 of Oxygen's true crime documentary series Twisted Killers. There was also a book by Linda Rosenkrantz called Ripper in 2010. So if you guys want to go to the location of these murders, the Jeffrey Male Hot house, the location is 221 Cato Street, Woonsocket, Rhode Island, 02895. So yeah, here's the house. You had the green shutters. It was white picket fence. But here you go. Here is the house. Wild. So that's a stoop that he was arrested on. And that's the front door that Jocelyn Antisse escaped from. Remember, when you guys are going to these locations, please be respectful of whoever's living there at the time. You just don't want to get anybody mad. I'm very interested in this kind of stuff. I know it's kind of creepy and weird, but I just, you got to do it respectfully, because people do live there. People do move, reside in these locations sometimes. But yeah, that's it. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Please subscribe. It really does help the channel grow. I'm also a stand-up comedian. If you guys want to check me out doing stand-up comedy, you can go to @MikeMaslotti. That is at MikeMasilotti. If you guys want me to add a location to my map, go to truecrimetravelmap@gmail.com. Shoot me a message with the location and a little bit of info about it, and maybe I'll even make a whole episode about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Honestly, this is really dope. I like seeing this channel grow. Hopefully you guys like seeing it grow. You guys are the ones growing it. So thank y'all again. And as always, Godspeed, Dark Travelers. And then